Hello, my name is Mayra Santos-Febres, an Afro-Puerto Rican poet, and I will be reading from the poetry collection, Both People, the poem, Ink. Ink for this poem about leaving an island, old tonton-macuts, fools, mediocre sky, new tonton-macuts, nothing to eat. Not even a single sun tree or mangrove incumbent. No dogs to chase away the excess, heralding your death's arrival. Black ink at crossroads, made only of water this time, of wild eyes and saltpeter and waves, bearing the 1,000 pieces of your cardboard breasts, 4 tires, whatever floats, negres, whatever makes this madness invisible. The cemetery guardians have bulletproof vests, and you? Nothing. Not even a heron rises to the sky to make it rain on the yawl. Shipwrecked, it would be a seaweed kiss, a little bed like the moss between your thighs, your offering, when there is not even a tear left to drink. There's nothing, not even ink, to describe your journey. Well, Both People, the poetry collection, is like a long poem divided into 20 pieces or chants, odes, that describe the way in which our islands in the Caribbean are centers of migration, of present migrations. They're made by migrations, the migrations of forced slavery and enslavement, and also the migrations of imperial powers that create conditions so that people cannot create roots in the islands. I'm really interested in conveying the emotion while throwing yourself to the sea to search for a better life conditions. Both People is inspired by one photograph, and it's the photograph of corpses, 9 corpses that were found in Isla de Mona, a very little island between the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, where illegal migrants stop sometimes in their voyage between Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Coast Guard found these 9 corpses washed on the shore of Isla de Mona. This photograph was published in the 1990s, and I remember I was a student back then, and I saw this picture. There was no internet. It was a very, very harsh thing to see. It just stuck in my head for the longest time. And I started composing, writing these poems. I don't think that the word is inspired, but shaken by this photograph that led me to think about the amount of bodies that are never found and that actually, create a convite, a maroon enclave, a palenque, a population of peoples underneath the sea. Well, for a Caribbean person, the sea is everywhere and everything. I always say that for an islander, the largest amount of territory that you inhabit or that configures the way that you live is not earth, is not the land, but the sea. And it always makes me think of the ways in which other writers from the Caribbean, like Derek Walcott and Brathwaite and Evelyn Trujillo, so many other writers from Haiti or St. Lucia or Trinidad or Cuba or Puerto Rico are always writing about the sea, how the sea encloses the land, but also offers an expansion that defines a human way of life, which is the way in which we live in the islands. I remember when the first time I went to Argentina, that for the first time I saw La Pampa, this huge, huge valleys of never-ending land. And I was shaken. I've never seen so much land. And then when I went to Cali, that I went to El Valle del Cauca, the same thing happened. Green pastures as far as what your eye could see. Never seen that before. The same thing when I went to the desert in Albuquerque, Nuevo Mexico. It was so amazing. I've always read about it, but I've never seen it. Well, that experience of vastness and the humility that it brings when you recognize yourself as a little speck in the creation, in this planet, that is what the sea is for us. It's a moving territory that it's inhabited by so much life and so much history. And the sea is central in most of our poetry and our narrative. I think that poetry has a form that has to do with breath and with rhythm. Of course, I thought of the sea and being in a boat as a kind of movement that could organize the images, but also the rhythm, the structure of each poem. But also another thing happens a lot in our literature, which is its infusion and conversation with music. So in both people, I make reference and I also use as models the different kinds of lyrics and also of genres, musical genres that we have in the Caribbean. This is something very common in the literature that Afro-descendants, people of African descent, use and the way that organizes our poetics. I was always thinking of bachatas from the Dominican Republic and also of plenas and rumbas and bombas from Puerto Rico and also son from Cuba, especially the melancholic songs. People sometimes think that all music from the Caribbean is very lively and sensual and vital. But there's many songs, cantos fúnebres, for instance, chants that people sing in funerals to say goodbye to their loved ones once they're dead. And also bombas, especially leros, that are very, very, very soft and very, it has a different cadence. They're sad. So I use those pauses and rhythms in order to organize the poems. And also I tried to convey the rhythm of the waves. When you're at sea for a long, long time, time stops and moves according to a different rhythm. So I use that rhythm, a reflective, long and expansive rhythm in each poem to organize their structure. The Cubans, the Marielitos, they were boat people. The Yoleros from Cuba that throw themselves in makeshift boats, boat people. The Yoleros from the Dominican Republic, boat people. Also, I want to make reference to the people that use patelas between the northern part of Africa and Europe. They're also boat people. And we came in boats, you know, through la trata esclavista when we were enslaved. So the idea of using that terminology, cold and bureaucratic terminology, and then that each poem will tell the particular personal, intimate, and at the same time collective experience seemed to me a good contrast. And that is why the poetry collection is entitled Boat People. I like the fact that ink is usually black when you write, you know, the blackness of the ink and the way in which such pigments have been elaborated by humans. Burnt coal with a little bit of water turns into ink, and crushed rocks can turn into ink, but the blackness of it is very important. And I use ink, tinta, that material that we use to write, especially by hand, you know, and then virtually through computers and typewriters. It ties the story of how we have been racialized by the color of our skin. You know, I'm black. I can be referred as a black woman, although my skin is a different tonality, but the blackness of it, it's a wonderful metaphor for both the body, the ink, the skin, and also the act of writing in a white surface or paper or platform. What I try to do is to expand the material and turn it into a symbol of embodied writing. You know, how ink, tinta, can refer to both the skin and the life journey and the story. What I wanted to do is to inhabit that voice from the viewpoint of somebody that is you know, lying under an incredible sun, you know, in the middle of the ocean, in sort of like a dream state, between consciousness and unconsciousness and inconsciousness, because you are just waiting for the boat to reach some shore. Meanwhile, you're just lost in the middle of the ocean, and in the middle of that no place that is being in the sea, in alta mar, no, in the middle of nowhere. So there is a break with the ways in which we think and talk when we are on land, when you can have the illusion of living a linear life, like you're going from point 1 to point 2, or from a point of departure to a point of destination in the land, through highways or through roads that are linear. This is another way of experiencing a consciousness. It's a suspension state. So La Negress, the woman that is in the middle of the sea in this boat, waiting for it to rain, or claiming for the really hot sun and light that is crushing her to that surface that it's very unstable, is remembering how life was in Haiti, how she had to just escape the violence of the Tonton Macoutes, how she's in the middle of the sea now, hoping that it rains, hoping that the sun will not dehydrate her, and that she can reach land. And that voice led me through the writing of the poem. It is like being inside of a vision. Some memories visit you, you know, the fragmentation of the tonton macuts, of the dogs, the fragmentation of the boat, of the sea, and then the fragmentation of even selling yourself when you had nothing else to offer, the fragmentation of the voyage in scenes that seem disconnected, but that have an underlying order or reason for them to appear. I wanted to use those images as landing points or buoys, you know, so landmarks, sea marks that could connect the floating, the drifting of the person, of the poetic voice in Tinta, in ink, so that the poem can be an experience more than a message or more than a lesson that the poem conveys and is sharing. I wanted readers to feel that they're adrift, suspended, not knowing, nothing is secure, not knowing where they're going to land as a point of meaning, a stern point of meaning, a stable point of meaning within the poem, but at the same time that that they don't get lost, although just a little bit lost. You know, that uncertainty had to be there in order for the poem to be believable. So and believable as an experience of shipwreck and of letting and leaving everything that you know behind.